Matches below.
Hey guys, Matches Balone here, bringing you guys a movie review. Today we're going to be looking at Batman Bad Blood. For those of you guys who don't know, Batman Bad Blood is actually the third movie in a new animated Batman franchise. First movie was Son of Batman, second movie was Batman vs. Robin, and now we have Batman Bad Blood. And before we actually go into the movie review and talk about this, I just want to tell you guys a little bit of things about me and how I'm going to be looking and judging this movie, right? So first off, huge DC Comics fan, you know, that it's in the Matches Balone title, you know, for the love of DC Comics. So of course, there's always going to be a little bit of favoritism towards the brand and what they do, but at the same hand, I'm a very honest person, and I tell you guys if I like something, or I tell you guys if I dislike something and why. So please keep that in mind. Comic book background. I've really got into comic books as like a hobby, and really stayed up with comics. Around 2009 was a comic book run called Batman and Robin. And this was a comic book run where Dick Grayson was Batman and Damian Wayne was Robin. So I do know some of the source material that's coming in to this movie. Some of the storylines, I definitely recognize them from comic books, so I do also understand that. And you know, lastly, I'm just a really huge animation fan. You know, animation is a very to me, it's the best media, but it's a very important thing in my life. You know, I'm a Christian, so I don't want to say blasphemy, but when I was younger, Batman the anime series was my religion. You know, like if that was on TV, forget everything else. That's what I'm watching, and there's no way I'm giving it up for you to watch something else. Like I would watch new episodes, reruns. You know, back then there was VHSs, so I would buy them and I would burn out the little strip of film. Like I just couldn't get enough of that show, and that eventually evolved into, you know, Superman, Batman Beyond, Justice League, and you know, so on and so forth. And look, I'm like anyone else. I've seen a majority of the material that DC Comics has provided in the animation world, you know, from TV shows to movies, but I haven't seen them all. In this case, I have seen the previous two Batman movies, and I have seen the two Justice League movies from in this universe, so I do have, you know, background in this world, and I know exactly what type of movie this is, and kind of, you know, their MO, right? So yeah, just kind of keep all of that stuff in mind. So when I tell you guys exactly, you know, how I feel about this movie, it doesn't come in a big shock, and you do know that it is coming, you know, from a very honest source, right? That being said, this movie was bad. Like it was god awful, and it was very disappointing in a lot of ways. Man, like I don't even know where to start with this, but okay, so when they announced this movie and they were saying how this is gonna be a movie where Dick Grayson takes up the Batman mantle, automatically I was super hyped, because you know, because that was the very first comic book storyline I was reading. There's a very nostalgic feel to towards it for me, and so it's very you know, close to my heart, very something, you know, one of my favorite storylines, right? And so I was definitely excited that this movie was going to be portraying that. And when I finally got to see the movie, I was so disappointed, and it was a mixed feeling of you know, just pissed to angry to confused, and like, man, to kind of give you guys the idea, right? It was, I believe it was Wednesday. And so, you know, got up, made breakfast. I stayed home. So, you know, once I was done eating breakfast, I started to watch the movie. And in my head, I was like, man, it's gonna be a good day because I have pretty much nothing to do. I get to watch a new Batman animated movie, you know, with a storyline that I love. Like, what could go wrong? Basically, everything went wrong for this movie. Man, it's just like, oh. the story, right? So the story is that there's a new vigilante in Gotham, and she's taking on this criminal gang, right? Batman gets involved, and she the new vigilante, her name is Batwoman. She starts using guns. Batman, obviously doesn't like that, and they kind of start arguing while they're fighting this gang. We get introduced to commercially what we thought was the main villain of the movie, which is called a character called Heretic. And so they start fighting. Heretic pretty much throws Batwoman all over this balcony. Batman saves her, but since he's kind of open to attacks while she's saving her, this other character, right, kind of like Heretic's right hand girl, Onyx, starts attacking him, and then Heretic blows up the building there. So Batwoman gets tossed out of the window, but then everybody else in that building supposedly dies, right? And that's how we start the movie. We kind of fast forward for like 2 weeks, ahead, where Alfred has been trying to do his best to keep up Bruce Wayne appearances, making it seem like he had, left for some type of business trip. During this time, he is getting word that Bruce and Batman are not there, so he calls up Dick Grayson, the very first Robin, who is now Nightwing, and he tells them, hey, Gotham, needs a Batman. They need that symbol, and they need to know that he's running around, or no, things are gonna get crazy, pretty much, right? In the previous movie, we saw Damian Wayne. We saw Damian Wayne at the end. He goes to some type of temple or monastery to kind of gather his emotions and get some wisdom on what he's feeling, so that's where we pick him up. He gets wind of that, Batman is supposedly missing, so he decides to come back to Gotham, where he finds Dick Grayson pretty much pretending to be Batman. So he decides to help him to kind of fool everyone that, hey, this is the real Batman, this is the real Robin. Since Batwoman, right, she starts seeing that there is a Batman running around, she confronts him and realizes, hey, this is not the Batman I met the other night. This might be someone else. And in this universe, people do know there is a Batman, there is a Nightwing, and there is a Robin. So she starts thinking this is probably the Nightwing person. But basically, she starts telling them, what happened, and now Dick and Damian start investigating exactly if Bruce is dead, or could there be something else. Heretic, in another scene, he invades Wayne Enterprises, and he goes after Lucius Fox, and pretty much forces him to tell him, or to take them to a place called the Vault, right? So they kidnap, or at least hostages, because this is all taking place in the same building, pretty much from the office to the Vault, right? So they take Lucius Fox and his son Luke, and pretty much what they were after was some type of black briefcase. Lucius was able to send a signal to Batman and Robin, so they do come and they do confront Heretic and his group. But throughout all the commotion, Heretic ends up stabbing Lucius. And there's another character, and his name is the Electrocutioner. Sorry, I can't speak, man. I just woke up. But basically, I love the fact that this character was in this movie, because he was actually one of the 13 assassins in Batman Arkham Origin. And I remember how they were building him, that he's going to be one of the assassins, basically one of the bosses that Batman's going to fight. And he was literally in one cutscene, and we never saw him again throughout the whole game. He shows up in the cutscene like some type of big tough guy. Batman punches him in the face, and that was it. And I was intrigued by his character, because I don't recognize him, and electric-based heroes or villains are kind of cool. So I was interested in learning more about him. So I did like that he was in this movie. But basically, maybe close to the beginning of half of the movie, he starts finding Robin. He's electrocuting him. Heretic doesn't like that. He says something about the boy, and he just kills off Electrocutioner. And so I was pissed, because it was like, man, I've only seen this guy twice, and so far the only thing he's done is to die. He didn't die in Batman Arkham Origins, but still, it was like they just knocked him out. He'd never see him again. So I was a little pissed at that. But yeah, so basically the important part of the scene is that Lucia Fox gets stabbed, and Heretic is very interested in Robin for some reason. But yeah, because Lucius Fox gets stabbed, his son Luke, who is also a soldier from who was fighting in Afghanistan, I believe, he wants kind of quote unquote revenge, right? And before the whole, before the whole interaction with Heretic, he was starting to talk to his dad about how he thinks there's some type of connection between him and Bruce, and when Enterprises and Batman, right, that he's kind of supplying him the stuff. And so when they were in the vault, he started seeing technology that he thought would have benefited Batman himself. And the only reason I say that is because later on in the movie, Luke Fox goes back to the vault and he puts on this kind of like bad armor, right? And the sequence of him putting on the armor is a lot, like how Tony Stark puts on his Iron Man armor, like he stands in the middle and all these like robot arms start putting on the armor across him, right? That was the same scene, so I was kind of like, But yeah, back to the main story. Later on, right, because of the little fight in the vault, Robin gets injured. He's kind of like healing and recovering in the Batcave. Heretic, for what we don't know how, but he ends up in the Batcave and he kidnaps Robin, or he takes him to where Bruce Wayne is, and that's where we find out that Heretic is actually working for someone else, which turns out to be Talia al Ghul. For those of you guys who don't know, Talia al Ghul is actually the mother of Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne is the biological son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. And she was a character that we saw in the very first movie, Son of Batman, right? Because she's introducing Bruce Wayne to, hey, you had a son. So we find out that, she, all this time, these past 2 weeks or so, she's been trying to brainwash Bruce Wayne to kind of bring him to her side, right? And, some more stuff happened, but eventually Batman, Batwoman, and Batwing, they show up to where they have Bruce Wayne and Robin, and they're fighting everybody, trying to break in and trying to rescue them, right? They end up rescuing them. Batman doesn't like that, Dick one kind of like became the Batman, and then he also kind of invited these two new heroes. So he dismisses them, and they kind of go off. Another week passes, and Bruce Wayne himself has some type of summon meeting with all these like world leaders, right? And in there, during the summon, it turns out that was the big plan for Talia al Ghul. She wanted Bruce to be there because she wanted to brainwash everyone and kind of having control over the world leaders, meaning she has control over the world. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. Obviously, Batman and Robin, everybody goes and stops her, and they have a big fight and whatnot. The story was fine, there was pacing issues in the sense that I saw, whenever there was be like, here's a sneak peek, here's a trailer, I would see those, and so I did see some scenes before the movie, and so when the scenes were occurring in the movie, I was feeling this is happening a little too early, right? The scene where supposedly Batman and Batwoman go save Bruce and Damian, I thought that was gonna be like the climax of the movie, and it happened, like halfway during the movie, and so I was thinking, wait a minute, like this is it, this is the ending, it really did feel like we have the beginning, we're building up, and then it just went a straight line to the ending, and so definitely there was a lot of pacing issues. Some of the other problems with the story is Batwoman, but I'll get to her and Batwing in a second. But yeah, the story, they try to make the story seem like this really big, grand thing, but honestly, it wasn't. This easily could have been something that Batman and Robin could have dealt by themselves. At most, they would have had Nightwing's help. They didn't need a team of 5 heroes to take on this mission, because honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't, some real, like ends of the world high stakes thing. At least from my perspective and how they kind of, executed the whole movie, right? So the story itself, it was decent. You know, I'm not gonna say it was weak because I think it was fine. It definitely got the job done as far as taking us throughout. You know, I believe the movie's like an hour and 12 minutes. You know, it got the job done, so it was fine. You know, definitely I would have changed stuff around to kind of feel a little more fluid. You know, like I said, it really did. It felt like we went from the beginning to the climax, and it turns out that's not the climax, and there's like a second climax. Like the movie didn't feel like there was a middle building on these characters, right? Now the characters. So, man, one of the reasons I hate these movies is really this movie had so much potential in the sense that, you know, it had the story of Dick Grayson being Batman. You know, it had the potential of introducing us new characters that we really haven't seen in the animated world regarding, you know, the Bat family, right? And it really dropped the ball on all of them, right? So Batwing, he, you know, like I said, he's Luke Fox, and he's a new superhero. When they, you know, they did say, when they announced this and did say, hey, this is going to be a Bat family movie, and they said the new characters for this movie is going to be Batwing and Batwoman, a lot of people went crazy, right? A lot of people were like, you know, where's Tim Drake, where's Jason Todd, where's Barbara Gordon? So it was already, you know, from, I guess, a hardcore audience, right? They were already a little bit pissed, I guess, or dismayed, or just didn't like this approach. I was always, you know, giving the benefit of the doubt and being like, hey, you know, we haven't seen these characters in animation. This probably might be a reason for, you know, one, you liking these characters, and two, wanting these characters to show up in other medias. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. You know, I think the pick these characters over some more legacy characters is simply because they're diverse individuals, right? And you know, I have nothing against anybody. You know, I'm a Hispanic male, so I understand what it means to have a character that is the same, you know, race, the same skin, creed, same religion, you know, like whatever. I understand what that means because it kind of builds a connection between you and this character, right? Something that you're not necessarily going to get if you're a girl looking to a white male, or vice versa, right? So I understand that, but I also feel that having diversity in a story or in a group or whatever, just for the sake of it, is pointless, because you strip the powerful meaning that could have been with introducing a female superhero or a superhero of color. You know, you just pretty much make them like anyone else, and I think when that happens, you fail at it. You know. And so that's pretty much what happened to Batwing and Batwoman. Batwing, we get him, I believe, a total of 3 scenes before he becomes the superhero. And I honestly feel like we never grew to care for this person. We saw him, and then he's a hero, and that's it. There was no real origin story for him. And I understand that in today's day, not, you know, people are sick and tired of origin stories. But Batwing is a relatively new character. You know, I think he was created like around 2011, or at least his ongoing solo book was in 2011. And so if you're a Batman fan who hasn't been keeping up with the comics, you don't know this character. And if you're a passive Batman fan who's only watched the movies or played the video games, you definitely don't know this character. And so this is definitely going to be a first time introduction of this character to a lot of people, and they just dropped the ball because they don't make us as the audience care for this person. You know, like, we get his name and we kind of get some of the motivation and some of the quote-unquote background skill sets that he has and why he is good at being this hero. But other than that, we don't understand this character. You know, he really is, throughout the whole movie, he was like a background character. He was an extra. Heretic had a group of villains, right? And on that group, he had Firefly and Killer Moth. And they've always been considered, you know, C-list, D-list villains for Batman, right? And Batwing pretty much plays the same role for the Bat team. He's like this C-list, D-list type of hero. And it really was evident to me because during their fights, Batwing would have a firefight with Firefly and Killer Moth, and that's when it hit me these characters are pretty much the same, where they're not important to the story, they don't have an important role. They're honestly, I feel like these characters are only in this movie because eventually we can get action figures from them, right? They just look cool in the background. If you're a little kid, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I like that guy because he looks cool, you know. But you're like somebody who's just above that type of mentality, you're just not gonna care for him, and so I'm disappointed in that. Batwoman, on the other hand, you know, they did a little bit of a better job for her throughout the whole movie. We kind of see a glimpse of of the tragedy that happened to her when she was a child. We see her working with her dad because her dad is some type of soldier, police officer who has connections to give her information for criminals, right? And we kind of see a side of her social life and kind of meeting this, you know, what becomes a love interest, you know, whatever. And so they do a better job of kind of really forming this character as a person, right? If you know, if you don't care for the person behind the mask, you're not gonna care for the mask itself. And so in Batwoman's case, they do a little bit of a better job, but it definitely feels a little inconsistent, right? It was like, here's this story, but then all of a sudden there's this side story about Batwoman. You know, like for whatever reason, you know, I really think this movie was meant to be kind of like a Batman meets Batwoman for the first time. If you guys ever saw the old Batman animated series movie where it was Mystery of the Batwoman, right? And the whole movie was about this new vigilante. I really think they were trying to do something like that, but you know, for whatever reason, it kind of got messed up because they do show signs where, like, you know, Dick is interested in knowing who this character is, and when he finds out who it is, you know, then it becomes a very personal issue for him because, you know, he has met this character. Her name is Katie Kane, if I haven't mentioned it yet. But when he knows that Katie, because he's met her as a child, and so it becomes a very personal issue, and so it does seem like this would have been a story where it's like kind of like her origin story or her first outing, or at least her first team up with Batman, because even Batman, right, the Bruce Wayne Batman, is interested in her and says, you know, he is very impressive and has a lot of good qualities, but it's still I'm not sure if she's worthy of, you know, kind of being taken under my wing, or I just have to stop her then and there, right? So there are some story elements to kind of say this could have been a Batwoman movie, but for whatever reason, you know, I honestly think like the studio wanted to make a Batwoman movie where the focus was on her, but you know, I don't know, maybe the Warner Brothers or someone else said, no, we have to make a Batman movie because Batman sells, right? And so basically they had these two ideas and just smashed them together. That's really what this feels. And again, I'm not trying to be bogus or anything, but if you were to take out Batwing from the whole movie, the movie will be fine. You're not gonna miss anything because he doesn't really do anything for the movie. And if you were to take out all of the Batwoman scenes, the movie itself, I feel, will become a lot more focused, right? A lot more. What's the word for cohesive? You know, I'm not sure, but it's just like it really does feel there's the story, but it wants to split into two different ones that don't really gel together, you know. And that's a little unfortunate because again, you portray Batwoman in a bad light. Because Batwoman, I believe she's been since like 2006, so she does have a past, right? She does have a history to the character. There are fans of Batwoman, right? So if they're gonna see, hey, this is the very first time we're gonna see this portrayal of Batwoman, this character at least, right? Katie Kane. There's expectations, right? You expect them to treat the character just as well as they will treat the Batman character, and I don't think they do that well. You know, like honestly, I don't read or I guess, you know, because she doesn't have a comic right now. I didn't read Batwoman, and I didn't read Batwoman, right? I've known these characters because they were like have some type of team up with the main Batman Robin book, right? But if I was completely new to this, I would not be, and I watched this movie, I would not be interested in these characters. You know, like nothing is really driving me to be like, hey, I want to learn more about these characters. And I think that's a really big fail for this movie because, like I said, you know, you had the potential to introducing two relatively new characters to a bigger audience than just a comic book audience, because the general audience doesn't read comics. That's the unfortunate truth. But they do watch movies and they do play video games. So if you were to introduce these characters now and kind of grow a fan base for them, we could have seen them in other media. I'm playing DC Universe right now, and Batwoman does show up there, and she's a fairly prominent character. You do see her. At the start of the game, and you see her a little bit later on. So she has been in other medias, but not a lot. And Batwing hasn't pretty much been anything. This is, like, to my recollection, my knowledge, this is the first time we're actually really seeing Batwing in something outside of a comic book. And I think, like I said, this should have been the reason why other people would want to put these characters in more media and in more groups and in more stories. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. That failed. Right? Now, man, they already did a bad job with these new characters, right? But something that's very, just hurtful and insulting is what a bad job they did with, the legacy characters, right? And mainly Dick Grayson. This should have been a Dick Grayson story, a Dick Grayson movie, right from the get-go. If you're gonna try to write the story of Batman's gone and Dick Grayson has to be the new Batman, that alone should have been your story. You didn't need any of this extra heretic stuff. You didn't need any Batwoman or Batwing. It really should have been a story where you see Dick Grayson and the struggle it is for him to have to portray Batman. In the comics, it was hard for him because he never wanted to be Batman, right? It got to a point where he just got tired of being always the sidekick to Bruce, being in his shadow, and now to have to come back and be Batman, it's like engulfs his life. And, there's a struggle because he does things differently from Batman, but because he has to portray this hero in the same light that he's always been, he has to think differently. And also, he's been used to kind of being the solo act and doing crazy things on his own, but now he's in charge of all the Bat family. He's pretty much taking care of a 10-year-old kid. And I know he's been a Teen Titans leader, but that's completely different because, it's something where you lead your friends. It's something where you're taking care of your family. And all of that stuff is very interesting, and they didn't use none of that in the movie. I was really pissed because when he starts talking about how he's always wanted to, or he's always been trying to run away from the Batman character, he's always trying to run away from the Shadow. I was thinking, oh, they are gonna talk about this. They are gonna show this for a little bit. And in the next scene, pretty much, he was already in the Batman costume, and I was pissed because I was like, wait, what? Like that's it? I was thinking maybe later on we're gonna see him, show that he's pissed and he doesn't really want to be Batman. But we never really got it. We got another scene where he stops the car because Damian says something about, you wish Bruce was dead so you could be Batman, and then he says, I've never wanted to be Batman, or something along those lines. But that's pretty much it. We don't see any struggle. We don't see, aside from those lines, we don't really see anything. And to be quite honest, this movie doesn't need him to be Batman. He wasn't Batman for that long. I want to say maybe for half of the movie at best, right? We see him stop Black Mass in this game. We see him interact with Batwoman and basically go save Bruce and Damian. And that was it, there wasn't enough time of him in the Batsuit to warrant this storyline. And so I'm really pissed that they actually used it, or at the very least put him in the costume, because that means any future movie, they can never use this storyline. It's been used. Even if they just used that little and they did a horrible job out of it, they're never going to be able to go back or at least tell a good story where, again, Bruce is gone, because it's not going to be the same thing where Dick is struggling with this, because he's already put on the costume, it just doesn't matter anymore. And that's the big annoyance for me. They also kind of portrayed Dick, I feel, a little weaker than what he is. Towards the end of the climax, there's a fight between Batman and Dick Grayson, right? Dick Grayson, Nightwing. And I just feel, Bruce is the better fighter, right? He trained Dick Grayson, but he didn't always, it's like that line that oh, I trained you, but I didn't teach you everything I know, right? And so I know Bruce is a better fighter, but in this movie, he just like, he pretty much whips him. You know, he just beats him so badly that he breaks out his arm, and he's about to kill him. And I just felt, you know, no, that's not the relationship. He might be a better fighter, but Dick can easily keep up with him. Dick is the only other character in the Bat family who could keep up with Batman, you know, and it's because it was that great bond and relationship between them. And in here, they didn't portray that, you know. They really made it look like Bruce Wayne didn't care for anything about Dick Grayson. You know, he just dismissed him right away with this line where, like, you're not Batman anymore, I'm in charge type of thing. And I was really mad and disappointed. I was like, you know, like, not only are you getting these new characters bad, but now a character who, you know, the Robin character alone just turned 75. So the Nightwing character, you know, is not as old, but it is fairly old. And so you're going to dismiss the character that has all this history just to, like, push this, you know, this crappy story, this crappy movie. Like, I was pissed at that. You know, and Bruce... Man, I don't know if it was like they wanted Dick Grayson to be Batman throughout the movie, but they were a little afraid, and so they have Bruce Wayne come back halfway through the movie or what. But I was just disappointed in the whole thing. Like, if you're a Batman fan, don't watch this movie. If you're a Dick Grayson fan, don't watch this movie. If you're a Batwing fan, don't watch this movie. If you're a Batwoman fan, don't watch this movie. The only way I can kind of recommend it to someone, and honestly, I don't recommend this movie to anybody. I don't care if you're a huge Batman fan. I don't care if you're an animation fan. I don't care if you watch the other two movies and you want to watch this one. Like, honestly, don't watch it because it's a bad movie. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to get any type of enjoyment. I rented this movie. Like, I streamed it online for like about $5. And I regret spending those $5. I honestly do. I really wish I would have watched this movie for free, so at least it could be like, well, it was a free thing, so I don't really care. But $5 is nothing, and I regret spending that movie on this. I'm glad I didn't buy the movie because I was really debating on whether I should buy it. You know, I watch a lot of anime movies, and then I'm always like, man, I kind of want to buy it to have a collection. I don't want this, you know. And it is a sad thing because, you know, this isn't some standalone movie that we could just toss away and be like, oh, well, it was a one-time thing and that's it. No, this is a movie in a franchise. And I'm still excited for Justice League versus Teen Titans. You know, that's the next movie in this universe, right? That's the next Justice League movie. I'm still excited for that because, you know, I'm a fan of Teen Titans. I'm a fan of Justice League. I've always liked when they kind of interact with one another. But just how badly they portrayed this movie and how they portrayed these two new characters, I'm really nervous and worried for this next movie. You know, they're introducing a whole team of characters, right? About 4 new heroes. And they're going to introduce a new villain. So that's about 5 new characters that this movie is going to tackle. And since this one already did a horrible job at just 2 of them, how are they going to get 5 characters across? You know, that's what I'm worried. That's what, like, it just doesn't make sense in my head. Like I said, I'm still gonna watch it. You know, when every year there's gonna be a new Justice League, a new Batman. When they make another Batman movie in this franchise, I'm gonna go watch it. You know, I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully it's gonna be good. But honestly, this franchise, this track record, isn't. It has 2 good movies and a really bad one. And so I feel the next movie has to be awesome. It has to be amazing. It has to be the best movie we've seen since, you know, since Mask of the Phantasm. Because if it's anything less, I really, you know, this franchise is just tarnished. The whole Batman brand for this series, you know, you're going to have to kill it off because then nobody's going to want to watch it. There's another series, Batman Unlimited, right? And that's aimed for kids. And I honestly think those 2 movies, that franchise alone, is already better than this one just because of how bad Bad Blood is. And that's a little disappointing because that movie is aimed for children, and this movie I feel is aimed for teenagers, young adults, you know. So, man, I don't know. Like, I'm just really disappointed in the whole movie. I don't mean to be negative, you know. I don't mean to hate on anybody. I'm sure everybody that worked on this movie, from the voice talent to the directors to the animators, producers, you know, I'm sure all of them did their best and tried to give us a good product. But, you know, somewhere down the line, it was, they did a bad job. You know, whether it was the story of it all, or maybe some meetings, you know, they ended up smashing 2 projects. I don't know, right? I don't know the story behind all of this. but it was just a bad movie, and I think that's really unfortunate because, you know, nobody wants to hear that the job they've been working on for the past year is horrible, right? But it's the truth. It's the honest truth. I'm not trying to hate on it just to hate on it. But it's just a really bad movie. And, you know, I remember something just right now. This movie has two new characters that did a bad job, but at the end of the movie, they still teased another character. And I'm just thinking, why are you gonna tease another character if you already did a bad job with these two characters? I don't know if they're gonna show up in any other movies, right? But honestly, Batwing is a background character. He didn't do anything. He literally could have been the actual Batwing, the player of Batman, you know, and nobody would have noticed the difference. So he desperately needs character development. And Batwoman, you know, she's a little more fleshed out, but we still need some more building, right? We still need to mold her a little bit more, you know, give her own solo movie, or just make her the premier character in the next one and only focus on her. But like, she herself needs character development. Not as bad as Batwing, but I'm just like, why are you gonna tease another character? I don't care if that character is very popular right now, and I'm not gonna say who it is, because if you are gonna watch this movie, which again I don't recommend you watching it, but if you're gonna watch this movie, at least you have something to look forward to. But man, I'm just like, I don't care if this character is popular. I don't care if, again, she's diverse. Whatever reasoning you guys had for introducing her, it was dumb. You should have saw this movie. You should have realized we did a bad job with these other two characters. We should really do a better job in the next movie and then tease another character. No, you guys teased her, and now because of that, she has to show up in the third or the fourth movie. And so now you're gonna be like, well, we have Batman, we have Robin, we have Nightwing, we have Batwing, we have Batwoman, and now we have this other character. So you're gonna have a team of 6. That's if you don't introduce any more characters. You're gonna have a team of 6, and it's just like, honestly, what the hell? You know, Batman is not the Justice League. Batman doesn't face these over the top villains that you're gonna need 6 characters to fight off. It just doesn't make any sense in my head. But yeah, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to hate on anybody. These are my opinions, my reviews, and I really did not like the movie. If you guys don't agree with it, you know, comment down below. Tell me what you guys liked about the movie. You know, what am I getting wrong about this? Because, you know, maybe that's the honest truth. Maybe I'm the only one. I'm in the minority, and I'm the only one that doesn't like this movie, and everyone else does. So please comment down below and tell me your guys' thought. You know, if you guys liked it, tell me why. Tell me if, you know, after this video you're interested in watching the movie, or if you're not. But yeah, like always, guys, comment down below. Like the video if you guys liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. And subscribe, and look forward to more videos in the future. Thanks, and goodbye.